Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Schneider, and I'm joined, as always, by Megan Kowalski. And welcome to our final Learner Group Wealth Approach podcast of 2024. Megan, congrats. We made it. December's here, almost ready to turn the page to 2025. So,
Yeah,
what we're looking to kind of cover today is just you know, every beginning of the year, we try to have a checklist of, goals and things we want to do. And at the end of the year, we want to talk about those goals. Did we achieve them? What are things to consider and what can we try and start pushing for the following year? So, you know, uh, we're in the wealth management business. The first thing we want to look at is assess the current financial situation. And we want to look at our portfolio. Did our portfolio achieve the goals we had set in the beginning of the year? Relative to the markets, how did we perform? Did we achieve your goals as clients? Did we produce the income we were intending? We want to look at the gains and losses. We want to analyze your asset allocation. And again, it just really make sure that at the end of the day, your money is working really for you, and to make sure that your needs are really being met from that perspective. And one of the things we want to do again is really just schedule meetings and make sure just to check in and see how everything has performed, and make sure that again, as we are at the end of the year, did we achieve the goals we set at the beginning of the year? And is there anything that we need to consider as we look into next year?
agreed. And I think this can be twofold. Part of it could be on the household for if you had any savings goals or investing goals that you were trying to achieve this year. And then part of it is also on the portfolio. Did it perform in what we needed, and how it needed to perform this year to meet our goals? And are we on track? So part of this exercise falls on you to kind of review your annual budget. How did I do? Was I roughly in line with expectations? Do we need to adjust anything if we moved into a new home and have different types of expenses? And then also from a portfolio perspective, which we'll get into as well.
Yeah, Megan, can you talk a little bit about the budget process? I know, just offline, we've been talking about how you sort of have a budget set for you and your family. Can you talk about sort of your process and how you go about putting together the budget and kind of keeping track of it?
Definitely. So, I will start with saying this is not the way you have to do it. And I think everyone budgets differently and manages their expenses differently. So I'll give my take on how I do it with my family. And I think, Michael, you can kind of do it with how you roughly do it with your family. But there's not like a perfect solution. It's just what works for you. But for me, I have a monthly budget that I allocate for the year with different goals. So like if we're saying we want to save X amount of dollars this year, this is how we'll budget it in each month. And then based on all of our other expenses that come out, this is kind of what's left every month or every week with our spending or play money after that. So every year I just like to re-review that budget and see, okay, first of all, did I add any new expenses? Did I get a storage unit or whatever you could add throughout the year or hopefully remove? And then was I on track? If I had an original grocery budget of X and it ended up being 3X, do I need to readjust? And then will that reshift any of my investment or savings goals potentially? So we like to just do that exercise to see if we're on track as a household and then help to goal set for the following year with what we would like to accomplish from an investment and savings goal that we can control. And then I've worked with different families who like to even also reconcile every month to see if they were on track. I don't go to that extent just because I don't unfortunately have the time with two young babies at home. But I think you'll roughly kind of be able to gauge within a month, was I over under, and you'll get an idea of it and know if you need to make any adjustments that way. And at the end of the year, you'll know if you met your savings or investment goal because you'll be able to see how much contributions or distributions went within the accounts that you were looking to achieve.
I mean, I think that's great, Megan. For me personally, I'm not as detail oriented from that perspective. From our budget standpoint at home, we like to say, all right, again, let's define the goals we want, whether it's saving in our 401k, whether it's putting money aside for future education needs for our kids, or any additional investments that we want to make, or any savings goals, and then kind of just throughout the year say, all right, what was sort of our initial balances and, checking accounts, savings accounts, and kind of how we've been spending it with the savings that we've had in mind. And if it's been going up or if the savings levels have been going down, just kind of really track from there. And then at the end of the year, kind of assess, are there any future or is there any excess budget that we have where we can maybe make some additional gifts or put some money away or do any type of, charitable donations and things like that. And then the one thing I do um, check every month though is my credit card bill, just to kind of see, at the end of the day, that's going to be, at least for me, the largest line item that we have. And if just kind of
Hmm.
running through those expenses, seeing, what was, sort of the normal expenses, what was either like a one-off larger expense, or if there's something that, doesn't make sense, if there and is, I actually just had to get my credit card replaced because somebody had gotten my information, started charging things to it. So to kind of have those types of periodic checks is also just a way not only to kind of see where you're spending, how you're spending, but make sure it's actually you being the one who is spending.
Yeah,
It's just something to, consider as well.
definitely. And I think another piece of this, so it starts more in the household perspective with what you guys are looking to accomplish. But then this is also where you can loop in your advisor to help not only set your goals potentially based on what you want to accomplish long term, but also gauge how realistic they may be or how easy it would be to accomplish them within that next year time frame. And we want to preface this with it doesn't necessarily have to just be a savings goal or an investment goal or a return goal or an income goal. This can also be something like we want to get college accounts set up for our kids this year. We really want to focus on this. Let's meet and make sure by year end this gets closed out so that we can check that off. So it can be more open-ended goals too. And this is where looping an advisor in can help make sure that it's realistic. Because if you wanted to do that paired with several other things, it might not be achievable within that time frame. But we can also chip away at how to prioritize what's most important to get done first and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think setting realistic expectations, Megan, is probably one of the most important things when considering the goals. Because again, looking at something like setting up, 529s, as you mentioned, for, kids or grandkids, that's something that really realistically can be done in the year. But if you're looking to say make estate updates and things like that, you need to take the time to work with the attorney, work with your advisors, and the commitment that you need as the client to really kind of make some of those decisions. That it can be a longer term process, and to really just understand that some of those types of things aren't going to happen overnight, I think is also important to recognize.
Hmm. Definitely. And then this is also just a good time. So after you've reviewed everything and after you've set new goals for next year, in setting those new goals, is that pairing with a rebalance or a reallocation with some of the funds in your portfolio or across various different asset classes? So that's where, again, you'd like to loop in your financial advisor to say, it might be time to readjust this way, and this is why, depending on what you want to achieve, if that's retire 10 years earlier or, whatever the goal is. We most likely would need to just review the portfolio at that time to see if any adjustments need to be made either now or over the course of the next year to get in line with what's needed to achieve some of these goals, depending on what they are.
Right. And, looking at kind of a next year goals and talking about the timelines, I know that, there are several people out there that have, what we like to call legacy positions, positions that you've held for several years. They have a very low cost basis, but a very high market value right now. And as people get closer to retirement, they want to convert some of those assets to be more income producing. But you don't want to wait until you get to retirement to do that because A, you don't know where the markets are going to be then. But you
Mhm.
also, B, don't know, or you don't necessarily want to take that huge tax hit all at once. So as we were talking about resetting and rebalancing, it's also about, let's think about it from a tax implication standpoint that, if you can say, all right, maybe this year we sell, if I want to retire in 10 years, that I have this position, maybe I sell a tenth this year, a ninth next year, eighth, and so on and so forth. And from that perspective, you're able to be a little bit more conscientious about the capital gains that you might have to pay over time, and you are not doing everything all at once. So again, it might be, for this year, or I should say next year, that you want to start this plan, and but it'll be again one that you check in at the end of next year to say, hey, did we get this done, and can we move forward with our diversification plan for some of these legacy assets?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
So. I think with that in mind, a lot of things, that we've spoken about today, whether it's rebalancing, whether it is looking at budgeting, whether it's trying to set goals with the families, that there's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of different avenues that you can take, and that doesn't all have to be related to the portfolio. And
Hmm.
to set some meetings, set some plans up is going to be the best way moving forward to make sure that we are able to define the goals that you have, and also make sure that you're on track and on pace to achieve them as well.
Definitely.
Mhm.
They won't get achieved if you don't know what they are. So setting goals really does help. We want to thank everyone for joining this month and have a happy new year. We'll see you
Happy
next
and
year.
healthy to everybody. Thank you so much.